Oh yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, cool. So one of the important things that I wanted to just discuss a little bit about was so now that folks are training more and they kind of understand the routine for training, how do they plan for events? Because we've been having an ITT one week, and then the following week there's a like a team time trial, and then the next week there's another ITT, and then in 2 more weeks there's another ITT. So like I mean that's a lot of events, right? I mean, yes, it's okay to do these events, but would you advise maybe taking a pass on some events so that you have a bigger goal to achieve, to train for instead? Because every time we try to do an ITT or a race, it also puts a stop to our training, right? Because our plan changes according to that event. We can't follow through with the schedule as per
Mhm.
plan. Instead, we have
Yeah,
to do taper it for that week, and then prepare for that week's ITT or race.
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe you can talk a little bit about that, so that the most of the folks here, they're also racing now. Everyone is participating in these ITT events, and everyone is doing really well.
Mhm.
So um, everyone's excited as well. They want to participate in more events, but also doing too much is also going to burn them out, right? So how to plan for
yeah, yeah,
more
yeah.
events? That's the
Well, so 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 let's first talk about the idea of having different events, right? Like categorizing them and saying this is my A event, this is my B event. And that's probably just a lead up, right? So how I basically look at all those kind of events and the categorization is basically just for once the lowest the important, not most important races. I basically just build it into the training, and it's easy. It's easier done with those ITTs, honestly. So that's not a big most of the time because you know what the event will look like, right? In the end, it's gonna be mainly aerobic. If you start too hard, you die. You die at the end. We know that, but the biggest part is still in the in a, or it's basically just a big aerobic event, right? There might be pacing issues, there might be stuff like that, but it's not those groups heading off, right? You're chasing them. You're doing a sprint in the end, right? And then all those crazy things happening in between as well. So it's not a real race type event, but it's a much more controlled event. So that's one thing. So it's easier to implement those in the running training plan, right? Because we know what's going to happen, right? Without races, you don't really know, right? So if you head out front, there's no attack. It's basically also a high aerobic event, but it might also be a totally crazy ride where you sit in, right, and nothing happens the first hour, and then the second hour it all gets crazy, and in the end it's getting even more crazy, right? So that's a totally different kind of things happening. So ITT events, basically, I would put them like in a B category. Yeah, starting from below, right? The C category races, basically, they just show up on the plan. Yeah, the client wants to ride it, it's fine, right? But I don't taper. So, like for a B event, I might taper a bit, right? Just because, and now the example with for a B event, it might be that we taper a bit just to that we know, okay, the everybody's able to do a high aerobic event on the next day. So that's the tapering then, right? It's just not ruining the fitness, but also getting a little bit of freshness so you're able to carry a whole yeah, like a 40K time trial, for example, you to carry the load, to be able to carry the load. And the A event, obviously, that would be one where you actually, well, 1 week, 1.5 weeks, maybe even tapering it into, right? And looking that it's on the point, right? So that's what it basically is. So looking at the races happening right now, the ITTs and the TTTs as well. Yeah, I kind of know what's going to happen and how much the stress is and how much anaerobic it will be and how much aerobic it will be if we only look at these two sides. So it's okay to do them every once in a while. However, I mean, we had now one in the recovery week. That's sometimes, yeah, some athletes, right? They want to be super fresh for those, but the tendency, and that's what came up in the chat as well. The tendency is that at some point you're too fresh, right? You just lost the edge basically, and that shows in the ITT as well. So that's why also we were talking about, right, the day prior to the race. What do we gonna do, right? Do we just doze around, do nothing, right, and then just relax and try to make it happen the next day? It's probably not going to happen, right? Because think about it. I mean, if the body goes into a recovery state, the muscles really don't have all the enzymes in them like they would if you leave at least a little bit of load, right? If you just demand a little bit, you're not over demanding things. You don't want to basically do the training cycle, right, to get the adaptation next day. So you don't want to overdo it, but you want to demand something out of the body so it's ready to give you everything it got the next day. That's the whole idea, right? Because otherwise it's well, yeah, it's like we don't ride at all, right? We're just losing fitness, yeah, and it's always degrading. We get older every day. It's just the end is in sight. No, but it's that's how you can look at it. So doing nothing will be actually going on a on the thing where body wants to relax, does the relaxation, and loses the required parts in your muscles, right? Being it the transporters, being it the enzymes, being it also maybe being it the carbohydrates, right, which are not getting out of the muscle, so they're not basically sucked into the muscle. That's how you can also see it, right? Because if the muscle is empty, we get hungry because we need to eat, because it needs to be replenished. That's the other thing too, right? Otherwise we just lose it a little bit, right? Yeah. So hopefully that did answer the question. So the more into racing you go, and the more into racing you go, the more it's important to really look at the schedule and categorize your rides. Definitely, yeah.
So essentially having goals, right? So which events are going to be your important
Correct.
A events, and then which are going to be the B events. So I think that's something that now folks here should start thinking about, because yeah, just going out and racing, it's fun. Every time we go out, you're getting a new PR, and it's great because you're gaining fitness as well. But I think having goals and then working towards that is probably going to be the next step now.
Correct. But as long as you see the improvement and seeing your PRs getting there, that's actually a good sign right there. But don't throw the bike away if now you're stagnating. And that would be just a normal thing, right? So it just means that you can still evolve, you can still develop, and the stress management is okay. Like you're getting your freshness at some point to be able to head out and do the PRs, right? So that was nice. As long as that tendency is there, you can do those back to back, right? Because I mean, it's also like I would give you a hard workout, but you just wouldn't ride as hard as you do on a race, for example. Yeah. It's just how we are built, right? We need the banana in front of us where we like like the monkeys it and chase it down, right? That's basically how we work, and there's nothing wrong to it, I think. But it's and if it doesn't work anymore, then it's the time to rethink about it, and then exactly the things happening you're saying now you need to really focus and say, okay, is this my main event in the end? And still, if I'm stagnating, I need to change something. Yes, yeah, definitely.
Awesome, coach. So that was my first thing that I wanted to start talking about. I think Vikram has a couple of questions as well.
I have a question. Hey, Abhilash.
Hey, Abhi. Yeah, go ahead, Abhi. Yeah, yeah.
I have a couple of questions actually. The first question is, Coach said about you have to plan between event A versus B versus C based on like what you want to do, like what you aspire to do. For instance, do you prefer road races versus ITT? Is that the case of how he put A event versus B event, or is it um, like nats versus non-nats? How does it, what does it mean by A kind of event versus B kind of event?
Yeah, I see. So let me give you an example to understand my thinking of A or B event. Okay, so working with a pro in the World Cup of mountain biking, right? So in that scheme, they have like back-to-back racing every weekend, or every second weekend they do have a race, right? Before that, they need to travel there, right? If it's Switzerland,
Yeah.
Italy, Germany, wherever. So basically, leading up to a certain point, yeah, some races you can still say, well, it's like we are preparing for your best fitness, right? Because we are still in a phase of training where we put it all together, but in the end, most of the races are going to be his A races, right? Because he needs the points, he needs to be in a certain ranking, right? And he needs to win the World Cup, or maybe be second, third, or fifth World Cup. So those would be A races because it really counts, right? And you also need to be fresh on the start line. It's not implemented in your training program, but the training program has to be planned around everything else, right? Which in these cases is like you get maybe one high-intensity, 1 to 2 high intensities in between the races, not more. That's it. That's it. I mean, the guy is red already, right? And needs to recover one whole day to then enter a new cycle. So that there's not a whole much days left of the week, right? To get them. So that's gonna be all those A races, right? B racing, I'll see that the athlete is still fresh enough to do good on that race, basically, right? So you prepare it, but only to get the freshness a bit in, right? And that's the difference to the A races. On the A races, you want to have the perfect anaerobic amount he can have, like anaerobic capacity, right? You want to have that built, like for him being a mountain bike cyclist. Anaerobic is big, right? Very big is VO2 as well. FTP, well, he might have had FTP 2 months ago, giving him like 330 watts for an hour. I don't care if he now has a half-hour FTP, which is at 340, right? If the VO2 is still blown up and the anaerobic capacity is still blown up. So A races, you want to have the right composition of all the physiological parts. And then obviously you also taper him in to be fresh and to have all systems ready and full up going on that day. That's basically the AB. And the C events, personally, I just, they appear on the training plan, and they just run with the other schedule, right? If you're fatigued, you're fatigued on it. I mean, yeah, what might happen, right? So some of these events, like if you look at Europe, right? Some of these events are just maybe club rides for some guys, right? Attending their old club rides. They might still win those, or like racing with amateurs, right? They might still do very, very good on those, even if they are super fatigued, right? That's how you can look at it. But for you, like as an amateur, it's usually like some athletes I have, like Switzerland and Germany, they basically want to do it's Tal Marathon, which is like 4,000, almost 5,000 meters of elevation gain and 200 kilometers of riding, right? So obviously we need to build as amateurs, surely, we need to build them to be able to sustain that, right? It's like like the biggest event in a Tour de France stage, where it also would be close to 200 kilometers, and also those crazy long climbs, right? And the often that's basically what they have as a events. Yeah.
Got it. So most likely, right now, what we are, I mean, whatever events we are participating, it comes under probably C category, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, C to B. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Right. So is it like, I mean, you answered this in the previous question that she had asked. So is it okay to still participate in, like, C kind of events, like once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks, or do you still feel like, as amateurs, we are still not there yet, like our body is still not there yet to, recover as quick as possible to the next set of, workouts and, training programs and stuff like that?
Yeah. So your body's still not there yet, but it's still good to do it.
All right.
Well, yeah, because just because you go as hard as you go on those events, honestly, yeah, and I know what's gonna happen, right? So it's always on the weekend. I'm gonna give you a rest day on Monday anyhow, and you can enter your working week, right? So it's possible for amateurs to do really well, and as long as you get better, and as long as you also, and that's the main part as well, honestly, as long as you are happy doing them, meaning as long as your motivation is still high, right? That's a big part too. I mean, if the motivation is high and the results are getting worse and worse, obviously, yeah, the motivation won't be high for long. But that would be not good. But as long as you're motivated doing those, it's actually helpful. Yeah.
Got it.
But they shouldn't wear you out, right? So they shouldn't leave with a week of fatigue, with a week of heavy legs, right? Feeling kind of like the muscles are still burning after 3 days, right? That would be wrong. But PTs don't tend to be like that, right? That would be like European racing style efforts where, as I said, the first hour nothing happens, right? And then it's all gonna go like an exploding melon, right? And it's just jumping.
Got it. And coach, my last question from my side. So I also asked in the group, right? So let's say I participate in one of the events on a Sunday, and I end up missing one of your workout plans, which is like an extremely great workout that I really want to do, right? So probably when I do the race in the morning, I would not have the energy to do the same workout on that same day, right? Is that right to do it probably on the same day in the evening, or is it okay to do it on the next day, like when it is actually supposed to be a rest day, like which is a Monday, right? So what is your suggestion?
I'm actually honestly planning on you either do the workout, or you do racing, so you don't have to catch up. Basically, it's not a catch up thing, right? Yeah, don't think, I mean, it's close to, but you don't have to think about the whole training process as you need 80% of exactly this training, 10% of that, 5% of that, right? It's also a mix, and that's what it is too. So I'm seeing the effort, I see how high the effort is, and I tend to place some of the workouts close to those kind of efforts as well. So you can actually also skip them, but they are nice workouts. So you shouldn't say that.
So the previous Sunday workout was like really good, but we had this event, and we just wanted to take a call on whether the event or the workout, and then thought, okay, is it right to do the workout the next day where your body is actually recovering, right? So we are not sure. At least I wasn't sure. So just wanted to get that. Yeah.
Well, for this one, there was the crisscross, right?
Uh,
the sweet
this
spot
was like,
going up.
sorry?
It was the sweet spot with those bursts, right, in between, like going up a band and
Yeah.
Yes, coach. That is called a crisscross.
Crisscross.
That will be actually too hard. So if you do a really nicely paced TT, you probably don't experience that. If you pace it a little bit wrong, you actually have those kind of anaerobic parts in your TT as well. So yeah.
Got it. And coach, so do we have to publish our, the events that will come up in future? Let's say we know that, let's say next couple of weeks we have another ITT, short ITT coming up. Should we have to put it up on Training Peaks, or should we just message in the group to say that, hey,
if you put it on your account, I probably won't get it or won't see it, because it's not highlighting it, or it's not shooting an email to me. So probably the thing to do would be to write it in the WhatsApp group. I tend to get, or at least overfly it, right? So because sometimes a lot of stuff is happening there, so I don't read everything, but yeah, just push me to it, and then I'll integrate it in the plan. And can give you the options there. So yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So now, like 2 weeks in advance would be awesome.
Yeah. Makes sense, coach. Thank you so much. That's all I had to ask.
Sure.
Coach, I'm really happy to tell you that quite a few of us, all of us, performed well in the last ITT, which happened on Sunday. The conditions were quite ideal for an ITT, and it was a short ITT. So all of us just pushed away to our individual glories. So we're very happy. So as Shri was saying, we all got PRs, and we were all quite excited and ecstatic. So I think this week's workout, everybody is going to do each and every workout for sure. And
as you always should.
Yeah. Of course we do. So I just wanted to ask you one thing, coach. Something that I observed was, of course, I see my fitness level on intervals.icu, because I don't have the premium Training Peaks account. So it was actually quite surprising, because earlier, I think until a couple of weeks earlier, with the intense workouts that you were giving, our fitness seemed to show that we were in the optimal zone, But for the last 2 weeks, it's been showing in the gray zone. But we felt really good when we did the ITT. We didn't actually, practically, we didn't feel like we were in the gray zone as such. So how is this? I mean, how do we understand this?
Where does the gray zone come from? From Garmin, or what does it say?
On intervals.icu. That's where we see it.
Okay.
So coach, basically the gray zone is like fitness freshness chart. So the zone is like optimal. So the green is fresh, and then gray is like optimal, and red is like you're in the red.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So gray is like kind of in between the fresh and the optimal zone.
Okay. Well, there's a few things to the fitness or to the stress model overall, right? If you just call it stress model initially, right? So they tend to name the variables in there, like chronic training load, acute training load. They wanted to give them a name, right? Freshness and form and what have you, right? But it's the interplay of everything. So for example, imagine a guy, I had a guy a couple of weeks ago with a TSS of 100, right? Chronic training load. So training a lot, right? Pro. And he's sick, right? So if he is getting after, let's say he's for a 6 week, right? So he doesn't do any training for 6 to 7 days. And then he starts training again. his form is like enormous, right? So he's like in a way high plus score, right? Plus 30, maybe 40 or whatever. So he's picking up the training. But when he picks up the training, he's still fatiguing, right? If I would just look at his form and the TSB, right, the balance of the chronic load to his acute load, then the super high amount would just come down to a certain level, right? And he's still in the plus 10. But he did quite a few days of riding to be still at plus 10. So that's when you see what it all comes down to, right? You also need to look at where did he came from? Well, he came from a plus 40 and he's now at a plus 10. Well, he did already 30 steps basically in between, right? So I look at also like the incline and stuff like that. So just to pinpoint those numbers, it could be Garmin as well, right? Telling you it's a gray zone or red zone or what have you, right? So there is some truth to that, to the figures, right? But it's also, hey, where is it trending, right? Where do we come from? Like, are you now able to tolerate more of the high intensity stuff than before? Well, hopefully, yeah. If you did all the workout, definitely, right? Now you can tolerate more. Now you could do 2, 3 more of those previous exercises. Probably that's why we shift up. I mean, and next week is actually shift up week, right? So I check and fine tune your your numbers. But so now I give you harder ones, right? To still keep in the same kind of duration part as well, which is also again more the physiological side, right? Because anaerobic is like a timing thing as well. Looking at aerobic, which is the longer time of the longer durations, right? So that's also not considered, right? So they just got pinpoint those numbers, and then it's gray. Yeah, don't trust on that and switch it off. Garmin has a feature too, which tells you the after I think 10 minutes of riding, right? You enter your ride, and after 10 minutes of the workout, the Garmin will tell you how good you are, right? I think I talked about it before.
That disorients a lot of people.
Oh, switch it off, right? Because yeah, wishful thinking or basically it's just burned into your brain right at the beginning of the real workout that you're not in a shape to do it, right? Well, how well you want to do it with those mental things happening from the Garmin computer telling you you're not able to. So yeah, you need to switch it off, and that's part of the training as well, right? Super compensation works that way. We need to shuffle ourselves almost in the grave, and then basically recover, and that's when we get stronger. And we all been there, right? We all been there after 2-3 hours of riding, hard riding, and we've all seen, okay, wow, that's super high stress. I'm so fatigued, and then 2 days thereafter, you see what really happened, right? The body adapting to it, you had recovery, and then 3-4 days thereafter, you can really perform really well. Yeah, that's the whole idea. Yeah. So switch it up.
So okay. So earlier I was not able to match up to the TSS to which the workout was designed. But in the last 1 week, I've noticed that I'm able to match the TSS or go a little higher as well. Does that mean that I'm able to go through the workout successfully, or does it indicate that you'll have to tweak my power settings? Because actually in this ITT, I also registered a new FTP for myself. So does that mean that this week itself you'll have to amp up my FTP in the zone?
Yeah, yeah. So after you did all your, yeah, you have a good point there. I was about to do it next week, but actually, yeah, as you all got your PRs, let's yeah, try to do it tomorrow or the day thereafter. Okay, put it.
Sure.
I have this. Makes sense. Yeah, but one more thing to the question of hitting the TSS number. If is like a workout where we don't go super hard in between, like those high anaerobic efforts. The TSS is good, which the workout is prescribed at, right? But since there's so much calculation in normalized power with anaerobic efforts, you cannot actually match the number which is given by Training Peaks. It just eases the process of creating those workouts, because otherwise, if I would create a workout, right, it would need to calculate in between, after me setting up the blocks, it would need to recalculate all the normalized powers in between to come up with a good TSS. So what they did, they skipped that calculation of the normalized power. They just use average power for everything, which is actually trending too much up, right? So there might be a 1 hour 30 session in with 220 TSS if it's highly anaerobic, and you will never be able to do that one, right? So it's just overreading on those anaerobic things. Just keep that in mind, right? So if you don't, on those spiky ones, on those spiky workouts, where the graph looks really spiky in advance, just be aware you probably won't be able to match the TSS score. If it's a regular one, and it's basically tempo riding, you'll hit it bang on. Yeah.
Got it. Understood. Thanks, Coach. I think I don't have anything else apart from this. But I should really thank you for your workouts. I have been doing them regularly, and I see a huge improvement. I mean, and improvement in my performance and my self-confidence as well. All my clothes are becoming loose as well. So I'll have to change my wardrobe thanks to you.
Sorry for that.
He planned ahead of time, Coach, and he already bought one size small.
Of everything. No, specifically for cycling apparel. One size smaller bibs, one size smaller jersey and all that. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thanks. And one more thing, since all of you are raising your FTPs, right? Which means now you're able to carry quite some load, to expend quite some energy for an hour or for half an hour. Now it's even more important to get the nutrition stuff right, because riding at 150 watts, yeah, it's not so super important, right? But getting closer to those 200s, into those higher 200s, and for guys doing 300, 400 watt efforts, they need to eat massive amounts, because they just expend that energy right away, right? So now you have to really look at how and when you eat. And one more thing for the TT, what I always say is you don't need to eat for an hour of exercise. But think about it. If it's halfway and you're really suffering, it makes you happy as well. It's like just triggering the brain as well. And reducing the power just for a bit to eat might help you regenerate all that used energy before, which came mainly from the carbs. Reduce it a bit, refuel your cells, and then ride along nicely with the input of the carbs and with the reduction while it's only a few seconds, right? But it still gives you kind of a little ease as well. Especially on the TTs. Yeah. But overall, you need to increase nutrition now over the hour or over the duration of the ride, basically. That's how we can say. Just pack more stuff, eat more stuff, and try to eat more during the ride. That's another big thing, because in the end, if you're super fit and the pro elite levels, it only matters if they eat right. If they don't eat right, they're all fit, right? But if they don't eat right or eat too late, they cannot hold up their power. That's the whole thing. And you see that in elite levels, and sometimes you also see it in the Tour de France. Actually, the last couple of Tour de France, or whatever stages you look, you'll see some guys just bonker and be at the end then. Yeah. So that's all very important too. And it's a training of your gut too. You need to train it. Because otherwise you won't be able to absorb it. You could eat it, but chances are it exits in a not nice way. Yeah.
Speaking of nutrition, I have a couple of questions as well, Coach, but can we reconnect? Because I think the meeting is just going to get over now.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've just sent out another invite on the WhatsApp group, Coach, so we can all disconnect here and rejoin there. It'll start in 2
okay.
minutes. Yeah. Thanks, guys.